Hi guys, welcome to Windsome Cottage Garden. My name is Hannah and I'm so glad you decided to join me today. We are in the home garden and we're working on a project that has quickly escalated. I started just filming this because it's been a little bit rainy, but we've got to break in the rain. And after I kind of introduce this and show you what we've already done, I want to explain where we are in the process with a little closer look at it. Because it's rainy, you guys have kind of been undercover in my garage, so you might not have gotten the best view. But we are creating a mini shade garden near the vegetable garden. Let's go take a closer look. As you take a look at our vegetable garden, which is loving this rain, you will see we have a new addition. We'll explain more about this tree once we get it planted. And we want to create, we also have these. These, if you have been following my channel for some time, will remember that they were on the driveway in my city garden house because we're doing a lot of nook and cranny gardening. And they need to come out of the cottage. And I'm not sure if they're going to stay here. In fact, I don't think they are. But it's a good place for them to just kind of live until I figure out where exactly I would like those. In an ideal world, you'd probably pop them down there, but got to think about that more. So for now, they're half filled with dirt. Now they've got some grow bags in them, and they're just going to chill here. But what we've been doing is working on this area. This Japanese maple is going to go in the middle of it. We realize there's quite a slope right in this corner. In fact, I'm going to hop on the other side of the fence to show you what it looks like. If you look on this side of the fence, I'm holding you about level. So it drops starting about here, probably about a foot right at the back corner, which means most of the water is going to run that way. This is actually going to be under a big maple tree. We wanted to try and level the soil a little bit more so we kind of prevented some of that runoff. As we have already built the fence, in an ideal world, we probably would have done this before we built the fence. What we've had to do is craft something to keep the soil off the fence because that will shorten its lifespan. So what you previously saw us do is get stones, which we have under this landscape fabric, about a foot, 14 inches down, all the way around. And we've tapered them so that we're building up this corner. We've put the fabric down so the soil stays out of the stones. And then we're now filling this up to, it's probably going to come like here-ish long term. And long term, I do plan to do crushed concrete around the vegetable garden so there's not so much grass. And it'll probably end somewhere in here, but we haven't quite figured that out yet. So this is going to keep the soil and a ton of moisture off the fence. And this is, I think, a great example of when to use fabric when you're trying to divide things, or if you are stone on top of fabric to keep the barriers separate. So right now we're just actually moving the soil in here so that so the fabric doesn't blow away. And I wanted to pop in and explain what we were doing. Probably I'll pop you up so you can see us finish this process. And then we're probably going to pick this up either later tonight or tomorrow. The hole has been dug, and as you might imagine, because there's this big maple right here, this is one of the dangers of planting close to an old established tree, but this is quite crazy. There was a root mat that we're cutting through, so there is going to be some competition for this tree. Hopefully, if I just give it enough water, it will be okay. We are actually adding a sprinkler head here, and normally if I saw this, I might rethink things. This is a little crazy. I don't think I've seen a root mat quite like this in a bit. Usually I'll run into a couple of roots, but not like this. Again, just have to see how this does. Hopefully it takes well. If not, we did it a lot wider than we need, and if we have to move it, we'll move it. But I think we can just give extra water and call it good. that was the process of building. Let's look at the garden up close in detail. Here she is in all her glory. Now, right now, as you can tell, I am standing near my vegetable garden along this little pathway. And we've carved out this bed here because the plan is eventually, I think I may have already said this, but these are temporarily here. And I am not quite sure where they are going to end up. So for now, they're just living here. It'll buy me a year to figure out exactly what I'm going to do. It also means I can't really use them because I don't want to add any more soil to them, knowing they're going to move again. So imagine this space without these here. This is actually all eventually going to get stoned for the most part around the bed, so I don't have to weed whack it so much. And that'll come right up to this bed. This bed, as we said earlier, is slanted, which is why we raised it. But I grabbed these little pavers that I brought from my old house and all these plants from the Horde to build around the Japanese maple. Now this is an Ukigumo Japanese maple, and it's got the most beautiful variegated leaves. In the spring, when they first emerge, they have pink edges, and then afterwards they kind of go to this more variegated color. Here's a great example. So it hasn't quite shed its pastel look yet, though even in the week or two that we've had it, it's definitely toned down a little bit. It's a smaller Japanese maple. It'll get 8 to 12 feet high and 4 to 8 wide. So I think under this tree should be pretty good. Gets probably 3-ish hours of sun, more in the spring, more in the fall, but that'll give it just the right amount of sun, I think, because they're a part shade plant, especially they need a lot of protection from the afternoon sun with all the variegation. It's easy for them to burn. Now, looking at the plants we picked out around it, I don't have names for all of these, but I have names for some. I know this is a mighty pip astilbe that gets quite tall. This is not its full height. It'll end up being about 4 feet tall, and it'll be a light, pale flower, which you can kind of begin to see forming, that I thought would be really pretty with any lingering pink in the tree and provide some added height there. Now, the stuff back there is pretty much full shade, so we added a lungwort, which will have some pretty blue flowers in the spring, as well as a hellebore, and the rest is mostly hostas. I don't know a lot of these names, unfortunately, but I do know that this is an autumn frost hosta. We actually just planted some of this at my mom's house, and this was one plant that I cut into 3 because I really wanted to kind of spread it out at the edge of this bed. In fact, I'd also like to cut it one more time, I think, eventually, and pop one here. We also have a seed hellebore from the old house, and some shorter growing variegated toad lilies that'll provide some late autumn interest. Another stilbe that's more of a low growing one, and I popped myrtle all around it. Oh, and a primrose, I forgot about that. It's a pretty blue primrose. But as I was saying, we popped myrtle all around this bed because long term the goal would be that this is ground cover and doesn't need to be mulched. This bed was quite tricky to do because this is a maple tree that I'm under. The roots by this tree were something else. Like, it was really interesting working in this area because there's a little bit of sandy topsoil and then you hit straight sand. So these roots, we didn't cut out any like major roots, but it was literally, we got the reciprocating saw out and cut around these holes, which is probably not the best for the reciprocating saw, but it meant that we were able to remove that mat anywhere that we were planting these trees. We also, as you saw, brought in some new topsoil and built up using some stones up against the fence with some fabric. One of the things I regretted as we got through there is that I didn't tuck the fabric directly at the bottom of the stones. We kind of let it to go flat, and then when I went to go plant stuff, I then had to cut the fabric out in addition to the cardboard. I probably could have done this in a much easier way because I also wish I had put the cardboard down before we started adding soil. So if you were going to do something like this, those are my tips to you. Put the cardboard down right on top of the grass, then add the soil on top of it. We did this kind of backwards. I thought about doing a couple different layers by the time I realized I was going to need to add the cardboard and should have done it sooner. And I just decided to do the cardboard directly on top of the new soil and hope that between the various different methods, it still works. So this was a fun project. It took us about a day and a half to get done, so it was pretty quick. And I think it's going to make such a beautiful little impact. Honestly, it looks like it's always been here. And as I started to say, my plan for this space where all these troughs are is to eventually stone it. I have a little, like, it's really technically a buffet, but I'm gonna make it into a potting bench and then see if I can get a small like bistro set to go there, because it's really shady. I don't want to maintain the grass, but having a cute little spot right by the vegetable garden where you can put some trays and sit and think, that could be really pretty. I hope you enjoyed this video. We got a large number of plants from the plant hoard planted. Let me do some countdown. 9. We got 9 plants from the plant hoard planted. However, 2 of these plants I actually split so they went back into the plant hoard because they were very big, and I thought, you know, I can get more than one plant out of these. So 7 made their way out. I'm slowly chipping away at the hoard, and I can't wait to continue adding new spaces. I'm not sure what's going to be next. We have some plans for the other side of this fence that's going to involve something a little bit more hardscapey. That sounds very official. But long story short, we're trying to build a spot that I can keep my garbage containers that's like hidden away, and that we need to raise and flatten that as well. So that's probably going to be something we work on this fall, but I might stick some plants in there in the areas I know aren't going to be affected. There's lots of different areas for me to pick, and I'm not sure where I'm going to start next. I really appreciate you joining me in this video. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe so you don't miss a minute of this garden as it gets built up around us, including some instant impact. This was, like I said, a day and a half, and bam, new garden. It was really satisfying to see this garden come together because I kind of envisioned a shade garden here, but to see it now all completely done with this beautiful Japanese maple as a centerpiece after about a day and a half was instant gratification. And well, the roots may have been a little harder than anticipated. I think it was worth it. And we've added some water to this area, I should say, so it gets extra water. And I'm hoping we're just going to have to monitor to see how the root competition and water competition goes. It's getting quite a bit of water because it's basically got a sprinkler just dedicated to it. And I think if we give it enough water and things establish well, it shouldn't be too bad with the root mats. I shouldn't compete too bad. At least that's my hope anyway. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And let me know what area you think I should start working in next. There's lots of different areas that we have to work on. The sky is really the limit. So make sure you subscribe and check back to see this garden's continued journey this year and in the future. I really appreciate you joining me today, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.